It was a night everyone thought would be just another music industry interview, one filled with the usual Kanye eccentricities, bravado, and unpredictable moments. But as the lights dimmed and the cameras rolled, something unprecedented happened. Kanye West, the man who has always spoken his mind, who has never shied away from controversy, was about to open up in a way that shocked even his most loyal fans. The subject: his biggest regret. The one moment in his life that has plagued him for years, the one thing he has kept hidden behind layers of defiance and public chaos: his family crisis. For years, Kanye has been a lightning rod for attention, but this time, it wasn't about his music or his political views. It was about the raw truth behind the private pain he had been concealing. A man known for making headlines for every move, every word, now found himself in a position where his past was catching up with him in a way that none of us expected. What happened to the man who once spoke confidently about his perfect family? How did it all unravel so quickly? And what is this regret that Kanye West, of all people, is admitting? Tonight, for the first time ever, Kanye is going to let the world see the human side of him, the side that has rarely been shown. It's a shocking, emotional, and revealing moment that will change the way you see him forever. The truth behind his family's collapse, the mistakes that led to it, and the wisdom he's gained in the aftermath. Prepare yourself for the raw truth that even Kanye West couldn't keep hidden any longer. This is a story you won't forget, an inside look into the personal battles of one of the most famous men in the world. Stay tuned, because this is just the beginning. The scene was set in a dimly lit studio, the tension palpable as Kanye West took his seat across from the interviewer. This wasn't just another celebrity Q&A. The air was thick with anticipation because tonight, Kanye was about to do something unexpected, something he had never done before. The notorious, often volatile artist, businessman, and fashion mogul was about to reveal the truth behind his personal struggles. But what could it be? His family, the one thing that was always meant to be a fortress for him, his personal safe haven, was now at the center of a storm. Kanye's history was one of highs and lows, triumphs and controversies. From the moment he burst onto the music scene, he made waves. His raw talent and visionary ideas set him apart. But it wasn't just his music that made him a headline magnet. His marriage to Kim Kardashian, the larger-than-life media mogul, only amplified the public's fascination with him. They seemed to be the perfect couple, two cultural icons intertwined in a seemingly flawless union. However, behind closed doors, a storm was brewing. As the interview unfolded, the questions came fast, and Kanye's answers were measured, but his demeanor was different. Gone was the brash Kanye who was always ready with a comeback, the man who once interrupted a live broadcast to express his opinion. Tonight, he was subdued, reflective, almost as if he had come to terms with the truth. The interviewer's first question was direct. Kanye, we all know about your success, your struggles, and your public persona, but what about your family? There's been a lot of talk about what happened between you and Kim. Can you share with us what really went wrong? The question hung in the air, and for a moment, Kanye remained silent. His eyes, usually filled with fire and defiance, now seemed distant, almost sorrowful. Then, with a deep breath, he spoke. Look, Kanye began, his voice quieter than anyone had ever heard before. I've made mistakes. I've always been confident in my vision, in my career, but when it came to my family, I wasn't the man I should have been. I was so focused on my ambitions, on building an empire, that I didn't take the time to nurture the most important part of my life, my relationship with my family. It was as if the floodgates had opened. For the first time, Kanye admitted what many had speculated. He had neglected the people closest to him, the ones who needed his attention the most. His relationship with Kim had been under constant scrutiny, with every detail of their marriage being examined in the public eye. But this wasn't about tabloids or rumors. This was about the pain Kanye himself had felt. He went on, describing the moments of tension that led to their separation, the moments when he was so consumed by his work and his public image that he couldn't see the cracks forming beneath the surface. I was putting my family in the background. I thought I could have it all, success, fame, fortune, but I didn't realize that you can't neglect the people who are supposed to be your foundation. The interviewer, sensing the rawness of Kanye's words, pressed further. But Kanye, you've always been about pushing boundaries, about doing things your own way. Did you not think your actions would affect them? Kanye looked down, nodding slowly. I was so caught up in my own vision that I didn't realize how much I was hurting the people who loved me. I wasn't there when they needed me. I wasn't there for Kim like I should have been. And that's the biggest regret of my life. The room was silent, and the weight of Kanye's words settled in. The audience at home, too, could feel the sincerity in his voice. The man who had built an empire was now admitting, with heartbreaking honesty, that the most important thing he had ever created, his family, had crumbled because he hadn't given it the attention it deserved. But Kanye wasn't done. He began to share a deeper insight into his personal philosophy, how his upbringing and his ambitions shaped who he became. I come from a place where nothing was given to me. I had to fight for everything. I wanted to be great, and I wanted my family to have the best, but in my pursuit of that greatness, I forgot that being a good man and a good father, that's the real legacy. Not the clothes, not the music, not the fame. The vulnerability in Kanye's voice was staggering. This wasn't the Kanye we were used to seeing, the man who would often defend his actions, no matter the cost. This was a man who had learned a painful lesson, a man who had lost something precious, and was now grappling with the consequences. "Do you think there's a way back?" the interviewer asked, breaking the silence. "I don't know," Kanye said softly, his voice laced with uncertainty. "I hope so. I'm doing everything I can to be the man I should have always been. For my kids, for Kim, for myself. It's going to take time. But I believe in second chances. I believe in redemption." There was a pause, and in that moment, Kanye seemed to have found a sense of clarity. He had admitted his regrets, but he hadn't given up hope. The crisis in his family had torn him apart, but it had also given him a new perspective, one that he was willing to fight for. The interview continued, but the words had already resonated. Kanye's admission of his biggest regret had exposed the humanity behind the icon, revealing a side of him that had been hidden away for years. It was a moment of raw honesty that left everyone, from the interviewer to the viewers at home, reflecting on their own lives and the things they sometimes take for granted. As the cameras began to fade, Kanye's final words echoed in the silence. "I'm just trying to be a better man. That's all." The tension in the room was at a breaking point. For hours, Kanye West had laid bare the darkest parts of his soul, the mistakes he'd made, the regrets he'd carried silently. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As the conversation shifted to his ex-wife Kim Kardashian, Kanye's eyes darkened with a quiet intensity. The questions had been leading up to this moment, and everyone in the room knew it. This wasn't just about Kanye's regrets anymore, it was about the future of his family, the hope that had once seemed so distant. The interviewer leaned forward, sensing that Kanye was holding back something even deeper. "Kanye, you've spoken a lot about regret, but what about redemption? Do you think Kim and the kids can ever forgive you? Can you forgive yourself?" The words hit Kanye harder than expected. His face tensed for a split second, and his hand trembled slightly as he reached for his glass of water. For a moment, it looked like he might crumble under the weight of his own question. His pride, the force that had carried him through years of public scrutiny, suddenly seemed fragile. There it was, the question that could either break him or give him the clarity he so desperately needed. He paused. The silence stretched out, long and uncomfortable. And then, in the quietest voice anyone had ever heard from him, Kanye spoke. "I don't know if they'll forgive me. I don't know if I'll ever make up for the pain I caused them. But I can't keep living with this guilt. The only thing I can do now is try to be the man I should have been. I have to show them that I'm not just a man of words, but a man of action." The gravity of what he had just said hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Kanye had always been a man of grand statements, but in that moment, he spoke as someone who had experienced the true weight of responsibility. It wasn't about his career anymore, it was about his personal redemption, the chance to rebuild the bridges he had burned. As the interviewer nodded, Kanye's eyes began to well up, something so rare for a man known for his bravado. It wasn't the kind of crying we were used to seeing from the man who raged against the world. It was a quiet, devastating kind of sorrow. It was the sorrow of a man who knew he had lost something precious, and perhaps could never get it back. The camera zoomed in, capturing the raw emotion of the moment, and viewers across the world felt the weight of Kanye's words sink deep into their hearts. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Kanye continued, his voice shaky now. "I'm asking for the chance to prove that I can be better. I don't want to be remembered as the man who tore his family apart. I want to be remembered as the man who did everything in his power to fix it." The room was silent again. Kanye's words had hit home, not just for the interviewer, but for everyone watching. He had always been a figure of extreme contradictions, genius and chaos, brilliance and madness. But now, for the first time in years, Kanye West had shown the world a side of himself that few knew existed. It was the side of a man who was painfully aware of his flaws, yet willing to face them head-on. The interviewer, visibly moved by Kanye's vulnerability, leaned back in his chair, giving Kanye the space to speak freely. "Is there any hope, Kanye? Do you think there's a way back to the life you had with Kim and your children?" Kanye's face softened, and for a moment, he almost smiled. It wasn't a confident smile, but a hopeful one, a smile that hinted at the possibility of redemption. "I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get the life I once had. But I do know one thing. I'm not giving up. Not on myself, not on my family. They deserve more from me. And that's what I'm going to give them. The camera cut to a close-up of Kanye's face, the look of a man who had been through the fire and was now emerging, scarred but resolute. The air in the room was electric, filled with the undeniable power of someone who had not only confessed his greatest regrets but was ready to do whatever it took to change. It was the kind of moment that could change the trajectory of someone's life forever. As the interview drew to a close, Kanye's final words echoed in the silence. "I'm not perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes. But I'm trying. And that's all I can do. I'll keep fighting. I'll keep trying. Because this isn't just about me anymore. It's about my family. It's about doing right by them." The interview ended, but the impact of what Kanye had just revealed lingered in the air. For the first time in a long time, Kanye West had opened up to the world in a way that was raw, vulnerable, and undeniably real. His biggest regret had become the catalyst for something greater, a journey of redemption, a story of a man who was determined to rebuild the family he had once broken. In the days that followed, the world watched as Kanye's words became more than just an interview. They became a movement of accountability, growth, and the possibility of second chances. Whether or not Kanye would ever truly heal the wounds of his past remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: the world had just witnessed a turning point in the life of one of its most iconic figures. And as Kanye walked off that stage, for the first time in years, it wasn't his reputation that defined him, it was his humanity. The interview had ended, but its impact continued to reverberate long after the cameras stopped rolling. Kanye West, the man who had been branded as reckless, self-absorbed, and unpredictable, had just shared something far more valuable: a glimpse into the soul of a man who was deeply aware of his mistakes, who had finally understood the weight of his actions. In a world that often values perfection over growth, Kanye's vulnerability served as a powerful reminder that change is not only possible, but essential. For those who had followed his career, from his early days as a musical prodigy to his meteoric rise in fashion and business, it was a rare, intimate moment. Kanye had always been a lightning rod for public attention, but never before had he allowed himself to be so raw, so human. In admitting his greatest regret, he had not only opened the door to his personal pain but also unlocked a path forward, a path that was about redemption, humility, and the courage to rebuild what had been lost. In his final words, Kanye had reminded us all of a fundamental truth: no matter how far we've fallen, no matter the mistakes we've made, there is always a way back. Redemption isn't found in perfection. It's found in the willingness to confront our past, to acknowledge our wrongs, and to take meaningful action to make things right. Kanye's message wasn't just about him. It was a universal call to anyone who has ever felt lost, who has ever struggled to regain what they've lost. It was a call to stop waiting for the world to change for us, but to take the first step in changing ourselves. But Kanye's story doesn't end here. His journey is just beginning. The road to redemption is long and filled with obstacles. But Kanye's resolve is now stronger than ever. He knows that the path ahead won't be easy, that rebuilding relationships, repairing trust, and proving himself will require more than just words. It will take time, effort, and a level of dedication that he has never shown before. But Kanye has learned that the most important work we can do is the work we do on ourselves. And for the first time, Kanye is willing to do that work. The world has watched as Kanye made his mistakes, as he fought against the very forces that were trying to define him. But now, the world is witnessing a man who is choosing to rewrite his story. He's choosing to be a better version of himself, not for the cameras, not for the headlines, but for the people who matter most, his family. And that, in itself, is the most inspiring thing of all. As we leave this story behind, it's important to remember the lessons that Kanye's journey has taught us. It's not too late to change. It's not too late to make amends. No matter how many times we've fallen or how many mistakes we've made, the opportunity to start again is always within reach. Redemption isn't about erasing the past, it's about learning from it and becoming better because of it. So, let Kanye's story be a reminder: the greatest victories aren't won in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments of personal reflection and growth. The true measure of success isn't the empire we build, but the lives we touch, the relationships we nurture, and the legacy we leave behind. And for Kanye West, the man who once thought fame and fortune could define him, the true victory lies in the chance to rebuild his family, his reputation, and ultimately, his soul. Let us take a page from Kanye's book and ask ourselves, what changes can we make in our own lives? What steps can we take to heal the wounds we've inflicted on ourselves and others? It's time to stop waiting for perfection and start embracing the journey toward becoming the best version of ourselves. The road to redemption is long, but it is always worth traveling. In the end, it's not about the mistakes we make. It's about how we rise from them. Kanye West's greatest regret became the spark that lit the way toward a new beginning. And for all of us, that's a story worth following.